thousands of games, hundreds of studios, dozens of Hub Market partners, an industry-leading Hub wallet, and just one API. Hub 88 is connecting businesses to a world of limitless content where the possibilities are endless. Hub 88.
Hello and welcome to another very special episode of Next In Depth, where I am enlisting the help of industry experts to help uncover the biggest topics in and around the online gambling industry. Now, today I've got a bit of a part two for you, because you may remember in my last episode I was talking to Ebba Groves at Every Matrix, of course, about how that company's recent acquisitions are now being integrated into the business. So we were digging down into that process a little bit more. Well, today I want to explore a very similar question, but from the opposite side of the table. So we've explored what that looks like as the buyer, and today I want to know what it's like to integrate a business when you are the seller. So you've founded your business, you've grown it as much as you can, you've taken it as far as you possibly can, and now you've got a new job, which is to integrate that into a larger organization and continue the success of your business. Now, to do that, I have a very special guest lined up for you, and somebody with deep and, I must say, unique experience of this very question. He is an absolute legend of the bookmaking sector, and all of you are going to know him. So truly, this person needs absolutely no introduction. So without further ado, why don't I bring on today's very special guest, and we'll get the conversation going. Here he is. Tom, how are you? Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Connor. Great to be on the show.
No, it's lovely to have you with us. And as I mentioned, you have got a particularly interesting perspective on the questions that we're going to be discussing today. As you know, we're going to be talking about the integration of acquired businesses. And of course, back in 2013, if we can kind of travel back in time today a little bit, your business, tomwaterhouse.com, was acquired by William Hill. So you've got a very particular story to tell on this topic. So just to start things off and to set the background context for any viewers out there who maybe don't know about tomwaterhouse.com and what the origin story of that brand was, can you kind of set up where that came from and what the growth story of that brand was prior to you actually considering an acquisition in the first place?
Yeah, okay. Look, the family were in gambling and bookmakers for over 100 years. So my great-grandfather was a bookmaker in the 1800s. My grandfather was probably the biggest bookie in the world in the 1960s, taking £1 million bets when you could buy a top house in Sydney for sort of £3,000. My dad was a bookmaker and also ran a professional betting syndicate since 1980. He ran that syndicate and also a bookmaker. And then sort of straight out of, or during university, early 2000s, I was a bookie, firstly at the Dogs and then at the horse races. And that business really accelerated when I moved to Melbourne. And the reason why it accelerated being an on-course bookmaker is I had a blueprint for my grandfather and my dad. I had my dad's form. Obviously, he was a professional bettor. Betfair was introduced, and I was one of the few bookmakers that really focused on access to Betfair and the internet. I was probably a generation or two younger than most of the bookmakers. And also, I moved to Victoria, which had the benefit of allowing you to offer a product called Best Tote, a better taxing environment, and allowed you to have access to the internet, which you weren't allowed to in New South Wales. So that on-course bookmaking business was a really good, lucrative business, but then it all changed when they changed the advertising restrictions in 2008, which allowed online bookmakers to advertise. And then obviously the iPhone came out and 3G internet. And so online bookmaking exploded with the likes of Paddy Power coming to Australia and buying sportsbet.com.au and a whole bunch of UK operators then coming. And that sort of was the key shift of why we went from on-course bookmakers to realizing we had to go online.
Yeah. And so, you know, you'd had great success as an on-course bookie, and obviously that's your heritage very much. So what was that transition period like into focusing, you know, a lot of your attention on online all of a sudden?
Was around 2007, 2008. Paddy Power actually out looking at all different businesses, and the family, because it was well known, also my well known name. My mum was a leading horse trainer in Australia, and her father was the leading. My grandfather on my mother's side was the leading horse trainer in Australia before her. The family name was known, and then Paddy Power did a brand study about the most recognised brands at the time in Australia, and our brand actually came up just behind Tabcorp, which was a large uh, own monopoly retail license, and was the large operator here. And so they talked about us doing some sort of deal, being basically like a face of a brand, and trying to build an online platform about it. And then we were also approached by another local operator in Australia about doing the same thing. And really, when the change was in advertising restrictions, the on-course business went down, and realized we had to go online. And we thought, well, why not use an individual as a brand? William Hill, Victor Chandler, and so on in the UK had been successful using an individual as a brand. Paddy Power, another one. And we thought, well, what, rather than being a URL, sports bet, sporting bet, TAB sports bet, let's launch as an individual. And so we launched the tomwaterhouse.com brand in 2010, did a full launch in 2011, and it grew significantly. We went from basically 100 customers in the on-course business to 250,000 customers in 18 months, and went from a team of myself and sort of two others to a team of over 100 plus people. And it was a massive learning curve, because obviously didn't understand anything about digital marketing or SEO, or how to work with tech suppliers, mobile platform, data suppliers, or also manage large teams. And so it was a real growing experience, and the market was booming. Advertising was just allowed. Online adoption really started to pick up, and there was a big online operators had a huge product advantage over on-course bookmakers. Obviously, you could operate 24/7, and you had a huge product advantage over the incumbent monopoly provider, which was Tabcorp, because you could offer their key product, Best Tote. So you could offer their key product, which was the tote product, but offer a product called Best Tote. And so really, it was a really interesting period and high growth, and really exciting time to be part of a growing online business in Australia.
Yeah, quite an amazing story, and it must have been an incredibly exciting time. So, from a strategic point of view, you're seeing all this incredible growth, and like you say, you're over 100 employees. All of a sudden, you have 250,000 customers. So, what's the rationale then behind entering into serious discussions about an acquisition?
Yeah, so look, the team did an incredible job. We had some really smart people in the team, like Sam Swanell, who went on to run PointsBet. He was the COO, and just a real key driver in the growth of TomWaterhouse.com was terrific. We had Warren Hebbard, who was our CMO, who went on to be the CEO of iSelect. Uh, Tom Rundle, who is now the CEO of Dabble. We have our CFO is now the CEO of a public company. Like, all really smart young team of people that drove that business to being the success it was. But all of us were learning. We hired really great young people, but we didn't have a blueprint of what Paddy Power had done in the UK, or William Hill had just been through, or Ladbrokes. So we were on a steep learning curve, and we got a lot of things right, but making a lot of mistakes. And also we were up against, we had a successful on-course bookmaking business, and then a telephone business. But we didn't have deep pockets in the same to the same extent that Paddy Power, William Hill, Bet365, Ladbrokes had. And so we were up a technology. We're up probably three big disadvantages. We didn't have a blueprint that the UK operators had just been through. We had a technology disadvantage. So our technology spend was just nothing in comparison to those UK giants. And we had less money to throw at marketing. Our marketing was very efficient. And what we got really right is we realized that live sport was the key. So we bought up most of the live sport in Australia. We got the NRL rights. We had the regional NRL rights, the regional AFL rights, the tennis rights. we had a lot of this right, but we didn't have the balance sheet to be able to really go head to head or toe to toe with those large UK operators. And so we realized that scale was really important. There was a big tax increase, or we thought it was big at the time. It was nothing in comparison to what happened the following 10 years. But we realized that we needed to partner from a technology and marketing spend wise with one of the overseas operators. And so that sort of began the journey. And we actually, the man that approached us from Paddy Power back in sort of 2007, 2008, he did quite a few M&A deals in the space. He did the Paddy Power deal with sportsbet.com.au. Obviously, he was part of the team. He did the bet choice sale to Unibet and did our sale as well. And so we got him on board and went down this path, this journey sort of 9 months to sell tomwaterhouse.com and sold it to William Hill in August 2013.
Yeah. And I guess at that point of negotiation and discussion between the parties, really, in many cases, I'm sure that's where the integration process actually begins in terms of thinking about it and working out exactly how that's going to work. So, to what extent was post-acquisition integration strategy actually discussed during those conversations?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. Obviously, you're probably seeing like Harvard studies or whatever that 90% of M&A fail because the integration piece is really hard. You know, but what made the William Hill acquisitions such a challenge, I think, for William Hill and the business they bought, they didn't just buy tomwaterhouse.com. We were a small add-on well after their main acquisition. So they bought the Sporting Bet business that also had the Centrebet business. So Sporting Bet had acquired Centrebet, which was a listed company, and they were just going through a merger process. So you had two existing teams being brought together, and then you had tomwaterhouse.com thrown in the mix. So you had Sporting Bet team, Centrebet team, tomwaterhouse.com team, and the William Hill management team. So you sort of had four teams uh, trying to get their hands around these businesses, and it made it a real challenge, and also a real challenge because, in their own right, Centrebet their team had done an amazing job with their business growing from where they had Sporting Bet also. Was led by Michael Sullivan, who's gone on and did a great job with Sporting Bet, but also a great job with Bluebet, which is now a listed company in Australia. And then you had William Hill, which was it was a FTSE 100 company at the time, and that team was an experienced team that was taking on the world. So you had some really smart people around the table, but they all had a different view of what this space would look like, and that's the challenge. I think that's the challenge with all M&A.
Yeah, well, it's great to have diverse talent on board. I think the challenge is I guess it can become a bit of a mess when you have lots of sort of conflicting opinions like that. So, in that context of all these different businesses being brought together at once, what was the first phase of the integration process actually like for tomwaterhouse.com?
Well, we had learned a lot at tomwaterhouse.com because we had to grow so fast, and we started from scratch. So one of the benefits of doing a startup is that you have to be a jack of all trades. You know, you have to go through the development of your platform, whether it's with a third party or internally. You have to go and see the best, whether Sports Radar or Genius Sports or whatever the feeds providers are. You have to go and do all the work to work out which CRM system you use, and you have to work out all the different bits, what margin you work to in trading, how you build your trading teams, how you refer bets, which bits you manage. You know, all of these things you have to work through from the ground up. So you have a really uh, good feel of the overall business coming from a startup. But you also don't know what you don't know, you know, and so we were at the beginning of the integration phase. We knew that William Hill were the masters of the world, you know, like William Hill was the king of the global gambling industry at the time. So if they said we're doing the integration in this period, we went, okay, well, that obviously you guys know, will be led by you in terms of what to do. And so that was our initial phase, is that we were not just the junior partner, we were just lucky to be in the partnering with William Hill. But then we soon find out in these big organizations, they have huge things going for them and huge access to talent, but they also have bits that they don't know. They're a big ship, and when you've run a small, fast-paced speedboat, you realize that there's some things that a big ship doesn't have. And so that we saw that pretty quickly, and we were obviously we were in an earn-out period, so we were very upfront and open in our communication with the global William Hill CEO and the board of what we thought were the areas that they were not going down that would suit the growth of that business. We were very open, and I was constantly communicating why I thought the business was not going quite in the right direction, or what they could do to fast track things. And it was definitely, it was a really interesting period, actually.
Yeah, and you have to fight for your brand because, like you say, a large portion of the acquisition cost for William Hill was tied to that earnout, wasn't it? So, in effect, that means really that it's your team who's taking the integration risk there. If something goes wrong, it's going to be your team who loses out, and not William Hill, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's so that's right. When you first get there, you're like, oh well, they know. But if it's not going the way that you hope, and you're not on the same trajectory as you were, you really want to make noise about it. And we definitely didn't do it in a confrontational way, but we did it very trying to clearly articulate why we did things a certain way and why they thought it would be of benefit for William Hill to do them. Because really, if you communicate in that way, you are actually aligned, because obviously William Hill want the business to go as well as possible. And when you're in earn out phase, at any time, you want the business to go as well as possible. So you are aligned. It's just you can have a different vision of how to get there.
Yeah. And what were the points of, any points of friction or any points of difference? I know it wasn't, something where it was a huge disagreement and confrontation. Like you say, you're all facing in the same direction, but there's probably some difference of opinion on how to get there. What was different in your business from the way that they would have originally planned to do things?
I think they bought a really successful big business in Sporting Bet, but Sporting Bet had an amazing high roller value, like they were high roller, high value clients, and they built that business. It was a top notch business. They controlled credit really well, bad debts really well, and was run a top notch operation. But it wasn't a digital business in the same sense that sportsbet.com.au were. And I think that William Hill, in many ways, thought they were buying a like for like business with sportsbet.com.au. And tomwaterhouse.com was nowhere near sportsbet.com.au, but we acquired in a way similar recreational, lower value, but high volume, low cost per acquisition customers.
Mm-hmm.
And we were on that path. And the way that I was communicating was, well, look, if you want to continue down this path of high value, like probably lower value, but high volume recreational customers, this is what you've got to do. This is what worked well for us. This is what you've got to look at as an overall business. And just kept communicating that to William Hill. And obviously that was key for us. We wanted to continue getting the number of customers we were getting in, and getting the revenue from those customers to keep growing revenue, so we'd hit our earnout. And I think, yeah, Sporting Bet was a great business and run well, but it was a different type of business than William Hill was building with William Hill Online, and that sportsbet.com.au were building. And I think we painted the vision of how to build that type of business to William Hill in all our communication.
Yeah. Now, obviously, one of the key things in being able to continue doing that, and I think one of the key challenges in the integration of any acquisition is the piece around talent retention, and especially your key talent. Did that throw up that process? Did that throw up particular challenges for you in terms of holding on to your key people?
Yeah, so in terms of, I think there's two phases. In terms of, it's very difficult when you're in the process of selling a business, because the minute you go from being 100% focused on growing your business to now I've got to focus dealing with buyers, the whole team can feel it. Even if you don't quite communicate exactly what's happened, they can feel that the focus has gone somewhere else, and then it flows through the whole organization, because they're like, well, what does that mean for me? Do I look for a job? Am I going to be safe um, in the new business? And that uncertainty really takes the eye off the goal of growing that business. So that was difficult, and that needed constant communication. And we were able to retain the key people through that period, but it was definitely difficult. And the business, it's hard to maintain the momentum that you have when you go down that process. And then when William Hill bought TomWaterhouse.com, we had the key people in the TomWaterhouse.com. They were incentivized to be part of that journey through the earnout. But then it's a different challenge when I became CEO of that combined business in Australia. The retention of managing what was a Centrebet team, Sporting Bet team, and TomWaterhouse.com team, and also understanding, from my point of view, understanding the talents of those people in other businesses, because those businesses weren't the same as TomWaterhouse.com. So as a CEO, I underestimated what made Sporting Bet so special and some of the key talents in Sporting Bet, because they weren't similar to what we built at TomWaterhouse.com, and the same with the Centrebet people. So I think that's a challenge of really getting, when you're trying to bring three different businesses together, of understanding what are the key drivers of those businesses, and what those people that have built those businesses, what key talents they have in building those businesses. That's a real challenge, and definitely a learning that I got from that integration process.
Yeah. Now, speaking of your transition into the CEO of William Hill Australia, I think this is one of the kind of famous elements of this particular deal, is that, your business was acquired. As you mentioned, it was a relatively small part of a much larger, much more expensive buying spree by William Hill. All of a sudden, within a few months, you're leading the whole business. How did that actually come about? At what point were you approached to take on that role?
Well, I think William Hill wanted to build a digital business in Australia, and we had been through a process of growing, well, the fastest growing online betting business in Australia. It wasn't the biggest, like sportsbet.com.au was, they would just dwarf us, but we had grown very quickly in a space of 18 months, 2 years. So we had some background and knew all bits of growing that business. And I think that they went, well, actually, understanding how trading, marketing, product, IT, finance all come together, we had that understanding. Now, there was plenty we didn't understand. Well, myself, I didn't understand. I was very new into the journey. I was 30, 31 years old. And only been running an online betting business for a couple of years. But we had built it, and I think William Hill went, actually, we need to make sure this is a digital business going forward, and we need a clean slate of to build this business. And the business, the key people that had built the other bits of the larger business, they had built very successful businesses, and obviously were very good operators, because they did that, and they've also gone on to build successful businesses after that. But it wasn't quite the type of business that I think William Hill was trying to build at that time. And I think that's why they asked me to run the business back in 2014.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, an incredible achievement at such a young age as well. But I think we should move on to kind of what these what this process taught you and how it informs your current role as Chief Investment Officer at Waterhouse VC. So, as you look back from the position that you're in today, what do you think are the things that did go particularly well, let's say, about that integration process? It's obviously very, very complex, a very a huge challenge for you to overcome as a young executive. What do you think did go well?
I think we built a very good team. The team of people that were at William Hill Australia, they've gone on to do great things, and they were just fantastic people to work with. We built a product delivery team and tech team that we were, by that end of the journey, it took us a while to get it in order, but we were releasing product at a very fast rate. I think that maybe only Entain or Ladbrokes business in Australia may have been releasing at a faster rate than us. We tried to keep that sort of entrepreneurial fight in terms of trying to release new products. Like we did very sort of innovative product. We released a click to call, trying to introduce in play, which went gangbusters for us before it got shut down. We sort of were the first to try these sort of large payouts, picking the first 10 in a race or the first 10 in a football competition. We did like very big acquisition drives by picking the number of aces in a game. So the team did a really good job of being innovative, tech focused, product led, and we were also very quick. We had big TV and print assets. We moved very quickly in sort of 2014, 2015 to digital focus. So we were, I think, in the top couple of spenders in Australia, not in the industry, in Australia, on Twitter, Facebook, Google. So we realized that there was a significant, and that sounds obvious now, in 2025, but in 2014 that was not so obvious. So we were very, very quick to go down that path. And they're the positives, but there's plenty of negatives. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't get right. And the key thing I think that we didn't get right, and I say this overall, is that when we realised that sportsbet.com.au was a much larger digital business and growing at a significant rate, we realised that taxes were going to go up and regulation and restrictions. We knew then that scale was really important. So our ability to convince global business and the board that we needed to put our foot down and accelerate if we were to be able to be the scale operator in Australia, we failed at that. William Hill was bought with, in Australia, was bought with a large amount of debt, and there was a real profit drive where at that time, sportsbet.com.au was going for a growth drive. So I think that was an issue. And also, we went from we had three very different businesses that were all good in their own right, but we went all in on digital first, William Hill as the brand, and what Sporting Bet was not completely digital business, had an amazing high roller business, and for me, there were plenty of people that would no longer remain part of the team that were key to making that a really good high roller business. So I think that it was a big learning, in that just because there's groups of people that don't fit into what you vision an online betting business should be, well, they have huge strengths that created this amazing business in Sporting Bet. And the same with Centrebet. Centrebet had a very unique brand, very very skilled team, and they were Tom Waterhouse, Centrebet, Sporting Bet had a lot of brand equity in the Australian market, and we went all in on the William Hill brand. And I think that that ate up a lot of value at a time when we needed that value because we need to focus on growth. So these were really, it was an amazing learning experience where we got some things really right, but at the same time, there were things that we could have done much, much better. And I guess that's the case, and that's why it is also so hard. And I referenced that study before. It is really hard, M&A, because when you're have got a business organically being built, you've got huge advantages. You've got momentum going with you. But when you've got three businesses being built very differently, to be able to get the best of all of them into one is a huge challenge, and a very difficult job from a CEO management team's point of view.
Yeah. And now with the benefit of all that experience, you spend a lot of your time talking to founders and startups in this industry. And I wonder if you were giving advice to somebody who was negotiating not only a sale, but also, getting a head start on that integration process, what advice would you have for them today?
Yeah, so we're dealing with businesses much earlier on their cycle, so but I think the key thing is with M&A, it's got to be a win-win for both sides. It's not one side's getting the better of it because they're getting the money and the other side's made a mistake. It's, can this business do something really unique and special for the acquirer, and does the acquirer add something unique to this business? And they're the best. You see sometimes that a business needs to buy a brand because they want to appear young, or trendy, or they want to solve a customer acquisition issue, or they want to do something like this. And yeah, that's great for them. They've solved that issue. But for that up and coming brand, has it solved the issue for them? And maybe it has, and that's great. And um, but and also it's much easier from my experience through that thing is buying one business, one business, one management team that you're working with. And I think um, Paddy Power, with their acquisition of sportsbet.com.au, um, I know they bought other businesses along the way, but they really uh, they back that management team. And obviously he's an amazing operator, Matt Tripp. But they backed that management team, let them grow, got to the end of the earn out, slowly moved on. When he moved on, had existing Cormac Barry obviously took over, and it was a seamless transition. He also did an incredible job there, and that was there was one main business in sportsbet.com.au. I know they bought the isbet.com business as well, but it's difficult bringing essentially four businesses together. William Hill plus the three acquired brands.
Yes, it doesn't sound like an easy process, but look, Tom, I just want to say thank you once again for coming and sharing the inside track on this particular deal with us today. I mean, it's
one other thing that I just sort of mentioned kind of before we round up is it's also very different, and managing a team of 10 people to managing a team of 50 to managing a team of 100 to managing a team of 500.
yeah,
Now, I've never managed a team of 5,000 or 50,000, but I guess I imagine it's a huge leap again. But every time you get over that little bump of people, it's hard enough managing a team of 10. But as it gets more and more, it's getting that process of keeping everyone aligned, and like basically cascading those priorities and objectives of what your vision of the company is down to bigger groups of people.
mhm.
That was a huge learning curve for me, and a really interesting challenge, but a real challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, well, can I? Yeah, it must be an extraordinary responsibility that just kind of gets bigger and bigger as time goes on. But this is absolutely one of the most, probably one of the most impactful buying sprees on the Australian sports betting market. It's amazing to have you with us and share that inside information. So I hope you'll be back here again another day. But for now, Tom, thank you so much for all the insights. It's been absolutely amazing speaking to you today.
Thanks, Connor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, there you have it, everybody. That's the inside track on William Hill's acquisition of TomWaterhouse.com, how that deal came about, how it was integrated, and all the things that Tom has learned from that over his incredible career. I don't think there's much more I can add, really. You heard it from the expert himself. So until next time, I guess we'll call it a day for today. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks once again to Tom for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Bye.